Welcome to the Holistic Success Show. I'm Elizabeth Lozano.
And I'm Dr. Robert Puff. Today our guest is an expert on raw foods.
Dr. Puff is going to be talking to us about living in the present moment, as well as changing your attitude towards your enemies.
And a question from you about how do we help our children succeed with their homework.
Another question is about changing poor eating habits. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show.
The ultimate goal in life is to be here now, living fully present in the here and now. But it's very, very difficult to do for most people. And the other day I came up with the idea of how to make it easier to do that I want to give to you or share with you. It's a concept. It's not a reality. It's a concept because there's no way to prove this, but it may help you be more present, be more here now throughout your life as you struggle, as you go through life and things get you distracted. Your mind is the main thing that keeps you from being here and now, because you analyze, you think, you create stories, and that keeps you from being in the present. So how can you really learn to be in the present more often throughout your day? Imagine for a moment that right now you are going to live forever and ever and ever. You're never going to pass. I mean, you may transform, but you're going to keep going forever and ever and ever. If that's true, if there really is no end to your existence, then ultimately what it means is the only thing to do is to live fully now and enjoy the now. Because if you live forever, there really is no sense of right or wrong per se. It's more, how do I live now? We're so often, particularly in people that watch this type of show, we're into growth, which is great. We're into transformation, which is wonderful. We're into improving our lives, which is awesome. But doing those things can keep us from living in the here and now. So if you thought for a moment, if you held the concept, I am an eternal being, and the only thing I have to do is just enjoy now, enjoy the journey, instead of saying I will work towards things, but that won't keep me from enjoying the here and now. And I think what I have found by kind of implementing that in my own life, I relax. I say, wow, the only thing I have to do right now is I just need to talk with you. And then prior to this, I was eating, so I just needed to eat. And when I was talking to a friend of mine, I'm just talking with her. And it's a sense if you do that, moment by moment, day by day, year by year, I believe what you'll create is a very beautiful life, a very rich life, which will ultimately lead to a very happy life, because taking one day at a time, living richly and fully in that time, instead of always saying someday I'll move forward, you're missing out on the here and now. But by realizing or thinking you might be an eternal being, that concept may help you to live in the present, here and now. Peace.
Our first question this week is from Bob in San Francisco, California. My 8-year-old son has a hard time concentrating on his homework. He won't focus on the questions and wants to rush through the answers, so they're usually wrong. What can I do to help him?
Bob, I think the important thing is to be positive. He wants something. He wants to go do something. That's why he's rushing through it. And you want him to do something. You want him to do his homework well and not rush through it so he has all these errors with it. So what you do is you say, okay, son, after you do your homework, you get to do what you want to do, but you have to do it correctly. So in a sense, what you're creating is a reward. He does his homework well, thoroughly, then he gets his reward of what he wants to do. And that can be a variety of things. Maybe he wants to play a game, watch a show, but he has to see a direct correlation between now's my time for homework, and if I do it well, then I'm rewarded by getting to do what I want to do. Because a lot of times what kids do, they're rushing, they're trying to get to what they want to do. And he needs to know that when he's doing his homework, as with life, we get to do that after we do our work. We get our reward after our work. You go to work, you get paid. His payment is all the other things that he wants to do instead of his homework. So if he realizes he'll get that much more quickly and much more easily if he does his homework well, then you will reinforce him to do his homework well because he won't be rushing through it. That's what I'd recommend.
Great advice, Dr. Puff, and you even were talking about how we get paid for the work that we do. And there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with your kids. One is if you can make the time to do the homework with him, that means everything to him. Just to have that, spend that time with him. I know it can be really frustrating. You need to breathe because that can be a hard time. But I've worked with kids before in the past, and you can create these little dollars, like you can print them on green paper, put a little smiley face in there and have a, one on there. And for every problem that he gets right, or every couple problems that he gets right, give him one of those dollars. And eventually you can kind of space it out maybe for 5 problems or whatever. But then what he does is you say, okay, if you get 20 of these dollars, then we can go get you something that you want to do, or we can play a game, we could trade it for whatever thing. But the key is he's having instant gratification, which kids are big on, especially if they have a difficult time focusing. So does a problem, gets one of these little dollars. Mind you, it's not a real dollar, okay? So don't be dishing out millions of dollars to your kids right then and there. He's having to work for something because that's what we have to do in life, and it's a great thing to teach your son.
I really like the advice you gave to Bob, helping him with his son to succeed by being there with him, doing the homework. Because homework and doing well in school is very important. It really affects their self-esteem. And I think by you investing in them, spending time with them, it makes them feel like this is important. My dad cares about what I do, and it sets him up to succeed.
I think it's the message of not giving up on himself and not just rushing through things. He may not get straight A's, and that's okay, and I think you need to let him know that I expect you to do well, but I love you regardless. And I think doing the homework with him is a great idea, but really watch yourself, because parents can get really frustrated with their kids, so watch your words, watch your intonation and what you're saying to him, because the message you want to convey is, I love you, you can do it, we're going to do it together if you're having a hard time.
And I think on that, Elizabeth, and Bob, what you can do is praise him. When he does do today well, praise him. Tomorrow well, praise him. Our kids thrive on praising. So praise your son, be there for him, and I think you'll find he'll do great in school.
We wish you and your son all the best. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Rod Rotondi to the show. He's a raw food chef and the founder of Leaf Organics Restaurants, as well as the author of Raw Food for Real People, which he has available in book format, as well as a DVD, which he gives some great lessons in there. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Can you talk to us about raw? I mean, we've heard all this stuff about raw. Can you talk to us? What does that mean?
Be happy to. A lot of people have misconceptions about raw food. It's not like the latest Hollywood diet. It's not some new trend. Actually, it's the way human beings have been eating for millions of years. Hominids have been on the planet about 6-7 million years. And during that time, we ate virtually all that time raw foods. It's only recently we started cooking, irradiating, frying, broiling our foods. So actually, raw food is simply unadulterated food from nature, the way that every other animal on the planet eats its foods.
So can you give some examples of that?
Sure. I mean, in my restaurants or in my packaged foods, we do things like wraps and smoothies and oatmeal, and we do lasagna and pizzas and pad thai and incredible cheesecakes, ice cream. You can make almost anything using raw foods, and all it really means is that you don't heat process the food above about 118 degrees, because at that point you kill all the digestive enzymes which are in every food. So it's really getting back to nature and getting back to simple foods.
Okay, and can you describe to us a little bit the difference between raw, vegan, and organic?
Sure, absolutely. Well, organic food is simply food that hasn't been adulterated with all the chemicals, herbicides, fungicides, pesticides.
Which cannot be good for us.
No,
right?
I call it slow suicide. Organic is the clean food, okay? Vegan is simply food that has no animal products in it, and that's partly ethical and partly environmental, because the single largest contributor to global warming is the livestock industry. And of course, the ethical side is, well, we don't have to kill any sentient beings in order to eat. That's what vegan is about. Mm-hmm. Vegetarian is just sort of a little bit of a watered-down vegan. They include some animal products, but not ones where you don't actually have to kill the animals.
Which you grew up eating entirely different food from this,
correct?
Totally.
I mean, I grew up with an Italian-American family. I did not grow up in some vegetarian commune somewhere. I ate all the Italian foods, all the American foods, meat, pasta, everything. At a certain point in my life, I made a choice. I mean, I got introduced to raw foods about 15 years ago. And for me, it was a revolution. I mean, I was making this incredible meal. I was eating it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the food of the gods. It was delicious. It was beautiful, colorful. I felt great eating it. And I said, like, since then I haven't looked at food the same way. You know, so for me, if I look at, you know, what a lot of people eat at a, you know, say a barbecue or something, I look at that white bread and I don't see white bread. I see this, like, you know, it's flour, and flour is refined carbohydrate. It's really not good for you. It's very high glycemic index. When you eat that, your blood sugar is going to spike immediately.
Now, you said that you make lasagna and you make pizzas, so where does that fit in? Because the main ingredient that I think for those is flour and egg, right?
Okay, that's a great question. Let's start with the pizza, or
Okay.
let's take the pizza. Pizza, you know, it has a crust, which is basically bread, right? So the way that actually, with originally human beings made bread by taking the grains and soaking them in water and then letting them sprout, and the grain will actually germinate and it will start to grow a little tail and get soft and sweet. And so then we will mash it up and we'll add some other ingredients, some sea salt, some whatever kind of bread we want to make, herbs and spices, and then what the ancient humans used to do is then they make little loaves of it and stick it in a rock in the sun, and by the end of the day it was dehydrated and they had a cooked loaf of bread. And that is the way we still do it in raw food circles. That's the way we do it in my restaurants and so forth.
Now, what about for people who don't maybe have the time to do that and germinate the stuff and soak it and put it out in the sun? Is there like any suggestion for that? Like if they want pizza or they want lasagna, but they don't have the time to do that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you can buy a lot of this stuff these days in a lot of health food stores. Like we have a whole line of crackers that you can buy, you know, corn chips, kale chips, you know, really delicious crackers. But, you know, you can learn how to make it yourself. It's not as much time as some people think. And in the book, my book and my DVD, the whole point here is to show you how to do it practically, how to actually incorporate this way of eating in your daily life. Because at the end of the day, it's really not about diet. It's about lifestyle. You know, your lifestyle is going to determine what kind of life you live. So these books, this book and this DVD, and the courses I teach here in LA, actually all around the country now, are really about how to make it easy for people to eat healthy foods.
Well, and I think an important part, as you and I were talking about, if you continued to eat all the heavy pastas and all that stuff, you wouldn't look like you look right now. And I know those foods are really good, but I even myself have like started transitioning some of the recipes a little bit, because also they make you feel so heavy and full. Like after you eat some of those, you just feel it for days just in your stomach.
And then, you know, what happens is when you start eating this way, eating raw foods and healthier foods, then you really don't want to eat those other things because you know how it's going to make you feel. Mm-hmm. So it's not just willpower. You don't have to just use willpower, actually. And you don't have to sacrifice in order to be healthy and eat healthy foods. You can eat delicious, satisfying, nourishing foods without giving up anything. I mean, what do you want to make? Ice cream? You want to make you can make it with raw foods. It doesn't even take longer. It's just we just have to adapt how we make it.
What are some of the recipes that you have in this book? Can you talk about like some of, I think, the important ones for people, like ice cream? I don't know do you have ice cream in here?
Yes, there's ice cream in there. I like to start when I'm teaching people like with breakfast, because that's how we start our day.
Mm-hmm. Which is very important. So many people skip that, but that's the start of your day.
And if you start out with the right kind of food, then it's easy to continue that food. If you start off in the wrong way, then it's easy to go on the wrong way. So, you know, I start off by teaching people how to make nut milk and smoothies. With nut milk is simply soaked nuts thrown in a blender with some water. You blend, you hit the button, and you have nut milk. And then you throw in a banana and some fruit and some dates or raisins and blend it again, and you have a great smoothie. And then you throw in some superfoods like spirulina or maca or tocotrienols or hemp protein powder, flaxseed oil, and you have like the most nutritious breakfast in the history of the world in 60 seconds.
Does it taste good?
Oh, it's delicious.
Did it take you a while to adjust to some of that?
I don't believe in food that doesn't taste good. If it doesn't taste good, forget about it. I'm not interested.
Because I think some people can be really intimidated by that and think, oh, you want me to eat nuts and weeds? What?
Yeah, I know. A lot of people, especially when I started, imagine 15 years ago, how people, you know, looked at us, people who eat raw foods. We were considered to be extremists. But the truth is that who's the extremist? I mean, I eat food from nature in its natural state, okay? And then there's a whole other group of people who eat food that's been irradiated, fried, broiled, you know, has all kinds of chemicals, hormones and stuff in it. I mean, who's the extremist here?
What about the difference with expenses? Because I think that's a concern for people sometimes. Like, is it going to cost me a lot of money to eat raw?
It really doesn't. It doesn't cost more money to eat raw. In some cases, it's less. First of all, you don't have the expensive meat. You know, you don't have to eat all organic, but definitely that's the way to go. I always look at the little extra money you pay for organic as money I don't have to pay to my doctor, or as a sort of land tax, So we're paying a little bit more, but we get to protect the environment.
So Rod, if people would like to learn how to transition their life into more raw, or maybe they already are raw or partially raw and they like some more recipes and learning how to cook some of these things, how can they get a hold of your products and of you?
Great. Well, they can go to my website, which is rodrotondi.com.
Okay.
My last name is Rotondi. They can also buy them on Amazon.com, and at most Barnes and Nobles they can find the books.
And you also have some products that you have in stores and as well, right?
Yeah, you can find my products at all these different health food stores on the West Coast primarily, but
And is it under your name or is
it's
it under Leaf Organics?
under Leaf Organics.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Leaf Organics. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, it's been so informative, and I really love the message that we're teaching people of how to be more healthy and eat more raw and without the pesticides and all of that stuff, and that it can actually taste good.
And it's not hard. Just do it one bite at a time.
Great advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
In life, one of the most difficult challenges we ever have to face are mean and cruel people that hurt us. It can cause us so much suffering and pain. I'd like to share with you a way to perhaps alleviate some of that suffering and pain. Why are mean people mean? The ultimate explanation is twofold. They do have their genetic predispositions and perhaps are more hostile, perhaps they have anger issues that they inherited, but the other part is mostly their environment and what they're raised with and what they're exposed to. And we know, we've done studies on terrorists and people that do heinous things to other people, and we all know that we actually have realized that they have incredibly low self-esteem and they were raised in very difficult, challenging environments. So when people are mean, they're doing it because of their conditioning plus their genetics. And I think what can help is when you encounter a mean person and it causes you a lot of angst inside of you where you say, oh, why are they doing this to me? What's wrong with them? I hate them. Instead of saying, the reason they're doing this to me is because they have been conditioned to turn out this way. It's not that they're bad people. They have cultivated what I call bad habits that come from their conditioning plus their genetic predisposition. So I think by seeing that a bit, what that will do is, even though you continue to set boundaries, and of course you don't let people hurt you, and you intervene when you need to, but all that hatred inside of you, that anger, that incredible angst that you can feel inside of yourself can kind of dissipate when you realize the reason they are that way is because they really were conditioned to be that way. And when you see them that way, what you'll find is your heart may soften, and you will not be as upset at them for hurting you, because you'll see them as they are conditioned of their environment. They are affected by what happened to them. And if I can see them that way and realizing the reason they have caused me so much pain, and I always challenge people to find this out. If someone is causing you pain, I can pretty much guarantee you, I feel, and please challenge me if you disagree with me, that they're causing you pain because they are suffering themselves. They're taking their pain and pushing it out to other people. And that's why they're doing it. They've been conditioned to not, in a sense, keep it inside. They've been conditioned to punch because they've been punched. So when you see it that way, when you understand that they're doing it not because they're horrible people, but because they have been conditioned to be that way. And if you had gone through similar experiences that they had, you would be like them. What that can do is soften your heart towards them. But more importantly, at a deeper level, if you find love and kindness towards others, guess what? You'll find love and kindness towards yourself too. Peace.
Our second question this week is from Louise in Quebec, Canada. My wife doesn't like to cook and wants to eat out all the time. It's expensive and she wonders why she can't lose weight. How can I help her?
Louise, I would really recommend starting with what I would call loving kindness. And in order to get someone to change, when you think it would be good for them, and they want to change too, you always have to use positive, gentle, loving kindness approach. Because when you attack someone, when you're critical, walls come up and she'll back away and she won't listen to you. I know you love your wife, which is why you sent the question. So if you approach her with, hey honey, what can we do together instead of you need to do? What can we do together to make it so we have a better eating experience? Like maybe we could take a class together. and learn about cooking and then cook together. Maybe I could help out with more the shopping and do things. Maybe we could, find healthier restaurants to eat at. Maybe one of the things I really like is maybe we could walk together so that she's staying fit, but together you're doing the journey together, and not where she's the one, that is behind, she's the one making bad choices, but together you and her working as a team because you love each other to improve your behavior. I mean, you could say, hey, honey, I found this great show. Maybe we start watching this show together and learn about how to eat healthy and be healthy, called the Holistic Success Show. But the point is, work with her on it in a loving way. Help her in a way that she will receive and be open to your suggestions, because you want to do it too. If you use the word we instead of you, people are way more receptive to that instead of saying you need to. That just turns people off immediately, and they won't listen to you. But when you approach them in a loving way and say, together, can we cooperate so that we can change the behavior for both of us? I want to stay healthy and fit. I know you do too. So let's do this together. Like, again, going to the gym, working out, taking classes together. And if you work as a team, I think she'll find that loving kindness that you show towards her will give her the enthusiasm and the strength to keep going forward.
You said a lot of really wise things there. A couple of the things that really stood out to me were working cooperatively and working as a team, which that's what a marriage is about, and also being gentle with each other. Because I think a lot of our gender roles that we have had, where the woman stays at home and cooks and cleans, and the husband goes to work and comes back and, he gets to eat and all that stuff and kind of relax at the end of the day, that's not always the way it is nowadays. Sometimes both the man and the woman have to work. I don't know what the situation is with you. Perhaps maybe she just doesn't like to cook, but I think it's really hard when it's just one person's job to do one thing. And so if you are really wanting to have home cooked meals, working with her and finding out a way to do that would be great. And as Dr. Puff said, not blasting her, putting her down, because actually that's going to make her angry and more resistant to you. I know for myself, my husband, both of us work, and when I come home, sometimes I'm too tired to cook anything, but he'll help me, even if it's just turning on the oven or helping me wash the dishes at the end of the night, because otherwise it's too much for one person to do, especially if you're not passionate about it. Fortunately, in my case, I'm passionate about cooking, but not always when I'm tired, so take that into account.
And I really think working as a team is important too. It's like, I think if together you explore things, together you say, how do we find food for ourselves, for our children? And I really like the idea of a class or attending workshop.
Trying new things and new flavors
absolutely.
for sure. Because if she's in these restaurants liking these foods, find out a way to incorporate them at home.
Right, and there really are healthy items you can get now to bring home for you. And I'm into raw, so you can learn about raw, and that's very easy. Just put a salad together; it's not hard to do. So if you learn ways that just make you both healthy, but again, working as a team, I think you can really improve your lives. So.
Yeah, I think when we put too much expectation on one person to take care of everything, it really dampens a relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like you said, the roles have really changed, and since they've changed, adjust to those changes in a loving, kind way. Again, perhaps she doesn't want to cook because you never help her, and I don't know that, but look at yourself and say, how do I reach out to her in a loving way so that together we change our eating habits?
Thank you so much for your question. We wish you all the best on your journey towards eating more healthy. Our quote this week is by Marie Curie. I was taught that the way of progress is neither swift nor easy. So work hard, give it your all, and success will come. Thank you for joining us on the Holistic Success Show. If you'd like to learn more about meditation, please listen to our Meditation for Health podcast, available on iTunes and our website.
And please contact us if you'd like to hear us speak to your organization or company.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week.